Namaskar ji. I'm very proud to have with me a very special guest today, Sister Jayanti Kirpalani. Sister Jayanti Kirpalani is from the Brahma Kumaris, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight into her. Sister Jayanti is the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris. She's their representative at the United Nations in Geneva, and a spiritual leader and teacher for over 5 decades. She's a pioneer advocate for the spiritual basis of caring and for the earth, and a key presenter at COP, climate change, conferences since 2009. So I'm proud and happy to bring before you Sister Jayanti Kirpalani. Om Shanti. Namaskar ji, pranam ji. As I promised you, we have with us an amazing person today, amazing personality, Sister Jayanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Sister Jayanti, it's so nice to meet you today, and it's an absolute pleasure. Our viewers have been requesting to see you ever since we've broadcast your video with your prayer for India. It's been an absolutely, I would say, soul-touching experience for so many. The actual video itself has brought a tear to so many eyes, because it's from the heart, and the energy that you radiate, is from the heart, and it actually reaches the soul of each and every person. So I just want to say thank you so much for blessing our channel with your presence. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. Thank you.
It's my honor.
Thank you. So, Sister Jayanti, you have been with the Brahma Kumaris for a very, very long time, and making it, I would say, going forward and taking the whole organization forward to this level, it couldn't have been an easy task. Now, we would like to know about your journey with the Brahma Kumaris, but before that, who are the Brahma Kumaris? Because before we were going to do this interview, I had put up a post on social media, and a lot of people inboxed me on Messenger, and a lot of youth were asking, Artiji, who are the Brahma Kumaris? What are they about? And the natural thing that I would say any youngster would do is would try to Google search something. So I always say to everybody, I say, don't fully trust Google. It's best to know directly, from the organization what they're about, who they are, and how they came about. So if you could shed some light on that for us, please.
Sure. Thank you for having me with you. The founder of the Brahma Kumaris at that moment was known as Dada Lekraj, and he was a jeweler and a man of very high ideals and character and reputation. And he had a gradual transformation. He became more and more introvert. This is just before he became 60. And then by the time he was 60, he had a series of visions in which he had a vision of God as a being of light, the source of light for the whole world. And so it was a novel approach for him, because he had been a traditional Hindu. But this awareness of God as light, of course, is a very universal image. But he had this vision. And then he had another vision in which he saw the upheaval of the world. And then beyond that, the world coming to a state of peace and everything transformed, and a better world beginning. And he pondered over this for a long time, a few months, and he gradually began to understand that it was possible to change this modern world into a new world just simply through education. But it required education of a different type, not the ones that is available at traditional universities, but an education in which people could understand themselves, understand the divine, understand what it is was their responsibility and duty in the world. And today I'm very interested to see there's a whole movement that's talking about inner development being able to lead to systemic change. Now, in the 30s and 1930s, nobody could have imagined that in the 21st century, scientists, social organizers, people out there in the world, economists and business people would be talking about personal development as the foundation of systemic change, but they are today. People like Peter Senge is talking about that in his sessions and workshops. And there's an organization that's taking up the whole theme of mind shift. And so it's now become an idea that's more and more acceptable in the world. But he had this understanding way back in the 30s. And he then started a group, and people just got to hear about it. More and more people joined, and we became, the full name is Brahma Kumars and Kumaris. It's for brothers and sisters, it's not just for women, but Brahma Kumars and Kumaris, and we use the term spiritual university. So people understand that it's not a place where you get a certificate, but it's a place where there's spiritual understanding and development. And so starting from Karachi, which is today in Pakistan, but it was the combined India at that time. And of course, afterwards, the group moved to Mount Abu as the headquarters. And this was in 1950. And I came across the Brahma Kumaris when I was still in India with my parents and grandparents, and that was in 1957. So as a child, I would just trot along and see what was going on and just enjoy the love and the friendship. And soon after that, we migrated to London in December 1957. So I grew up here, and in a very natural way, I think I forgot about my connection with meditation. That wasn't so important through my teenage years. It was the years of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Carnaby Street, and all of those things. So it was a very different world. But I then took time off from uni to spend time in India. And I thought, let me find out what these people actually are trying to tell us. I knew them as loving people, beautiful people, but what are they saying? So I then started my spiritual journey in 1968 in the month of April. And first it was study for myself and the practice, and then training to be a teacher. And by then my parents were quite keen I should come back to London. So I came back about a year and a half later, and yoga had just appeared on the scene in England. But of course, everybody associated yoga with the physical postures, but it was a good starting point. Vegetarian diet had just been introduced by ISKCON. So different things were bubbling. There were new ideas beginning to emerge. And so it was the right time to introduce Raj Yoga and meditation. And then a few years later, a delegation came from India of very senior yogis, and a center started. So actually, this is the year we are celebrating our 50 years anniversary. And this is the first channel that's hearing about this. But as the months go on, you'll be hearing more and more about the 50th anniversary of the Brahma Kumaris.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and a very interesting thing happened. In 1982, we became affiliated as a non-governmental organization with the UN, because although it's a political body, its aim is peace and a better world. And the Brahma Kumari is a spiritual organization, but our aim is the same: inner peace, outer peace, but most of all, a better world for everyone. So that's a sort of potted version of our story.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so much that has happened, and it's so amazing that we're going to be celebrating the 50 years as well. That's I would say a huge step, you know, for mankind. Now we've known this practice, you know, thank you, you know, to the Brahma Kumaris, the Brahma Kumars, about meditation, about love. And to be honest, I don't think there's any religion in the world that does not say that, we shouldn't love one another. But yet, this is a very philosophical question. So many people go through so much pain. Even before, I would say, before COVID, there was still war, there was still famine, there was still so much greed. And there have been so many studies that have been done, and you don't need to be a top-end Scientologist or a scientist or economist to find out that the world produces enough food for every single person not to go hungry. We have enough of everything because Mother Nature produces enough resources for every single human being, or every single animal, every single living being. But yet, due to greed, some people have more, some people have less, and some people have none. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we're seeing this gap between the rich and the poor grow even more. And there's suffering is increasing. So why is love not winning?
Because we've forgotten who we truly are. We put ourselves into compartments. I am young, you are old, I'm male, you are female, and all the things in between. But most of all, somehow, although religion is saying, the word religio is very interesting, ligio, ligament, to join together. And so it means to reunite. But instead of being an energy that can bring us together and unite us with the divine and also with each other, religion has become such a force of division. And of course, it's just a label. There are other underlying factors, but just look around the world and there's so much horror and sadness at what's going on at the Middle East, in particular at this moment again. And the reason why we are not able to love each other is because I don't know myself. I don't love myself. I think maybe inferiority complex is rampant across the world, but I would say that especially in the generation that's now beginning to be adult, the young adults, they're the people who've grown up in the digital age. And so they're hooked on social media, of course. And social media is so focused on the physical identity. My face has to be perfect, my hair has to be perfect, all of these things. And nobody's got a perfect face, nobody's got perfect hair, etc., etc., etc. But it's very easy to create an image and post that and have other people say, oh, I wish I was like that. And so this inferiority complex in which everything depends on the external without looking into what is the beauty of the spirit, what is the beauty of character. Am I actually following my core values in my life? Those things get ignored. Just the externals get exposed and people get caught up and trapped by all of that. And so the reason why I don't love myself is because maybe I don't like the way my nose is, or maybe I don't like the way my eyes are, etc., etc., etc. But even deeper, the inferiority complex comes because my identity is based on competition with another. And so when I say, okay, hold on, is that who I am? Do my eyes and my hair and my lips and nose define me as a being? And when the answer comes back inside, I'm surely much more than all these external things. And when I know who I am, then I also recognize that I'm spirit, I'm not skin. And so there's something more powerful than the color of my skin, something that's more precious than just the externals that can change with age, with time, with whatever may happen in my life. You see some people who are quite young, but they look very old because they're carrying the burdens of their family or their world on their shoulders. And so whatever's going on inside gets reflected outside. Can I go inside and connect with the inner being, the soul, the light that I am, and feel that light shining in the center of the forehead. First step, can I do this? Second step, surely that applies to every human being. Age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, qualifications don't matter. Every single soul is that being of light. Can I see them in that way? And when I learn to see them, I'm able to connect with them. Otherwise, all these external factors, especially race and religion at the current time, becomes a big barrier in front of me that is impossible to cross. And those walls just get bigger and thicker all the time. And so we're forced into compartments, into different positions that, well, you were born this, and so this is how you should think. You know, we are fed that information, and we grow up with preconditioned beliefs without actually reaching out to the human being. And in this spiritual consciousness of who I am, and I've gone beyond these limits and boundaries, then I'm able to see you as that inner being of light. And when I can learn to love myself, that's what the Testament tells us. Love thy neighbor as you would love yourself. And the scriptures of the East tell us the same thing. See the divine in each one, then you can experience that love. So it's not a surprise that there isn't any real love. And of course, on the other side, what's happened is that love has become very commercialized. If you love somebody, buy them this. If you love somebody, feed them this. You know, it's been brought down into a very silly level. And so we have to find what is real love, that's able to support, that's able to encourage, that's able to uplift, and really to be a friend to each other.
Definitely. I mean, Sister Jen, you explained that so well, and you know, I'm sure that the message has got across to so many of our audiences, so much of the youth that is watching at the moment. Now, one of the questions that I had, because I posted this on social media, and that you know, I will be having the opportunity to you know, speak with you today. And so many people sent me in their questions which they would like to ask. So I'm going to ask you some of the questions directly from, you know, from the youth, from your audience. And one of the questions that we had is that is the Brahma Kumaris only for Hindus?
If you look at our center in London and see the group of people that come together, or even the other person who's been in touch with you, Rachel, I don't think she was born in India, and she certainly wasn't born into the Hindu tradition. Let me explain something. And it's a bit of a long way around, but it'll give you an idea. We believe in spirituality, and we believe that spirituality is at the core of every tradition. But Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews, all have forgotten about spirituality. And so we become very distant to each other. Otherwise, in fact, we are one human family without any distinction whatsoever. And so Brahma Kumaris puts across this understanding. It's not just an idea, it's a deep, profound understanding. I'm a soul, you're a soul, and whatever is connected with this physical body, which includes the religion into which this body was born, in that state, I come to my own spiritual consciousness and I connect with another. And the example I want to share is one I heard many, many years ago. Think about a bicycle wheel. You stand here, I stand here. And I belong to one tradition, you belong to another. We look across this huge chasm and we see differences, different color, different language, different food, different culture, different scriptures, different stories, different, everything is different. And so what's going to be the bridge that connects us? I don't know. But if you go deeper into your tradition, and I go deeper into my tradition, we come to a meeting point at the center. And at the center is the divine, the one parent of the whole of humanity. And at the center is also the values that we hold dear as human beings. And those are 5. And like you said, nobody can argue about love. Correct. So love, peace, truth, purity, and happiness. These are the essential values that are within every human being and are at the core of all our different traditions. And so Brahma Kumaris doesn't preach Hinduism, but yes, our origins are in India. And so we do use many of the scripture references. We use many of the stories that we have in India, but we're actually a spiritual organization. And so I work very closely with someone who was born into a Jewish family. And she knows all about Judaism, and her family knows that this is what she's doing. And others come from the Christian background, others come from an Islamic background, some from the Buddhist background. London is interesting because, you know, there are 148 languages spoken in London, alone in London, and people come from all over the world. And so the London class actually has representatives of all the different racial groups, religious groups, and age groups.
It's so good to know that. It's just that so many people are asking me, so many questions, and whichever questions I had the most of, I thought I'm going to ask you that one first. So this was the number one question collectively that a lot of people were asking me. Another question, and another question that I had from social media was that if you wanted to join the Brahma Kumaris, are there any rules or are there any disciplines that we have to keep?
If you decide you want to find out more about spirituality and connect it very much with that as meditation, to be able to go inside deeply and know the self, it's open to absolutely every single individual. And then as you go along the journey, then depending on whatever your goal is, you set the parameters for yourself. I'll give you an example. We don't say to anybody, you have to become vegetarian, for example, or vegan. We say, come and study meditation. And then they ask us the question, what is it that can actually help me go deeper in my meditation? So my response to them would be to say, okay, give yourself 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and experiment with a vegetarian or vegan diet and see what difference it makes to your inner state of being. I can bet you they feel healthier, no question about that. But quite apart from health factors, and there's a lot of information available out there about vegetarian diet and the benefit of that for the environment, the benefit of that for good health, but our concern is the inner world. And probably you'll find that following a plant-based diet gives you an inner capacity in which you're more at peace with yourself, because the other foods trigger all sorts of reactions in the body, the adrenaline rush and other things too. And so trying a different type of diet will definitely make you feel fresher, healthier, lighter physically, but it'll also probably help you be more calm.
I mean, I think with a lot of the youth, the major concern is restrictions. I think sometimes we already feel so restricted. There are so many laws, rules, regulations, and a lot of them feel so restricted. And especially since there's a saying now, like post-COVID and pre-COVID. So they're adding another date. So they're saying post-COVID is like another thing. Like at first it was like before Christ and after Christ. Now it's before COVID and after COVID. So they're coming up with all these different different sayings. So now that we've experienced COVID and we've experienced even more lockdowns, restrictions, rules, I think it makes it a bit scary for anybody to think, oh, more rules or more regulations. So if they say, for example, a person, they're feeling very, very frustrated because of the restrictions, because of the setbacks that they've had in life, especially within the last 2 years, where the education has come to a halt, a lot of careers have come to a halt. The companies where they were going to apply to have gone bust. And there's so much uncertainty, and it's almost like a situation of I think I would say comparing it to a situation just after a major war, because the economy is crumbling and there's so much uncertainty. So a lot of people are getting in touch with us and asking, say, Arkaji, how, what is the way forward? How do we find that peace of mind, and what's going to happen in the future? And obviously I don't have all of the answers to every single question, but when people come to you, Sister Jayanti, because you've got so much experience, how would you address a person who has all these questions and who's been through so much I would say pain recently, where we've lost loved ones, we couldn't go to their funerals, we've had to watch their funeral on laptops and on via Skype, which is not the best way to say goodbye to our loved ones. But there's been so much pain and so much agony. And now there's a lot of people that have contacted me saying, Arkaji, we just feel lost. We don't know where to go or who to turn to, and we just need to feel that comfort again, almost like a mother's hug. So that's what they're looking for. So where do they find that love? I mean, because of your vast experience, I'm putting this question towards you, and I know it's quite heavy and quite philosophical once again, but I think maybe you attract these questions because of the love that you give out. And so people come to you with hope and with that love in their hearts as well, that maybe we can find peace here, or maybe we would be able to find some answers here.
What I would suggest to anybody who comes to me with that sort of question, and of course we get many like that here, I would say take time for yourself, especially before the world gets into the crazy rush that it was in before. So while you still have time, especially, learn to meditate. And I'm not doing a plug, but our meditation courses are totally free. And in fact, everything we do is completely free. So don't worry about the checkbook or your cash in your pocket. You can leave it behind at home. And what happens is that when I learn to meditate, I'm getting to know myself. And when I get to know myself and connect with the peace and truth and love that's within, and I'm able to connect with the divine and draw that spiritual power within myself, I'm at peace. I'm able to love myself. My mind is now focused. I can think more clearly. I can see below the surface. Instead of just living life on the external level, I'm now asking the question, what is the purpose? What is the meaning behind all of this? And when I see COVID, for example, well, COVID came to teach us something, that nature is stronger than the human. And humans thought they were able to conquer the sky, the earth, the water, the fire, and we were in charge of everything. So COVID came to teach us a big lesson about our ego. So let me just be quiet for a little while, find out who I truly am, experience the peace within, then after I've experienced that peace and that connection with the divine, which doesn't take forever, it's not a lifetime, it can happen within just a couple of sessions of about an hour each. What happens then is that you're thinking more clearly, you can see how everything begins to fit into place more clearly. When I'm confused and upset and angry, I'm not looking at what's actually going on. It's just my emotions that are driving me. And so there's already a mess, and I'm adding to the chaos and the mess. But when I'm clear and calm, then I can see what steps I need to take in terms of my inner development, in terms of my relationship with others, and the life that I want to lead, my education, my career, etc., etc. Yes, it is a world in which it's pre-COVID and post-COVID, as you said. But I also wonder whether it's ever going to be post-COVID, full stop. Because all the signs are that in some form or another, things will never go back to what they were. But yes, I can develop my own inner being so that I'm more able to cope with whatever life is throwing at me. And so it's impossible to identify what is the cause of A's identity, B's, the cause of B's anxiety and identity, and all of these things can be highly, highly individual. But the solution, or the start to the solution, is how am I approaching the problems that I'm facing? If I'm getting tense about it, anxious about it, fearful about it, I can't do a thing. But if I can find that inner peace, which is available to every single individual, is the right of every human being. So when I can feel that peace, and then I pop my head out and I look at the world, then I can say, in terms of myself, I need to give myself more time. In terms of relationships, maybe I haven't valued them. Maybe I haven't been as loving and compassionate as I could have been. So let me change that now, so that those around me truly feel the love that I'm radiating to them, that they also feel that I'm going to be faithful and loyal in my relationships. Because in the uncertainty with what's happening in the world, if there's uncertainty in relationships, that really becomes very difficult to manage. And so my inner stability through meditation and peace will teach me how to be loyal and faithful in my relationships. And then, having settled these two things, then the third thing I need to look at is, what do I want to do in my life? And so I'll then be able to have a clearer idea of what my real purpose is and how to set about it.
That's it's so I would say it's so deep, and it really you can really feel that it does touch your it does touch your soul in a very unique way, and it's a very deep thought as well. And if it's something that if reconnecting with ourselves is something which we need to say dedicate minimum 4 hours to, then I'm sure a lot of people would think, you know what, that's doable. Because normally when you think about meditation, I've had these, I've had these conversations with so many people. The last Zoom meeting that we had, where they're saying, Artiji, do we have to sit under a tree to meditate? Questions like this are coming up. And I'm like, no, you don't. Do we have to leave our family? And I'm like, well, who told you to leave your family? So, love your family, stay with them. And those sorts of questions, like, no one's asking you to leave your family, no one's asking you to sit under a tree, but you can meditate. Now with the Brahma Kumaris, Sister Jayanti, they have kept with the times, although this is I would say a very, I would say, old organization, because it's been around for many years. We're going to be celebrating the big 50 very soon. I mean, even then, it's always kept with the times. So before apps came out, before mobile phones were in, every single pocket, every single hand, the Brahma Kumaris were there. So over time, how has the organization changed in how has it changed in connecting with people, keeping that communication open with people?
Let me just add, you don't need to give 4 hours every day for meditation. And you don't need to leave your family and run away to the jungle or to the mountains.
No.
You need to give 1 hour each day initially. That's it. 1 hour each day for a space of about 7 days. That's it. And once you've understood the mechanics of meditation, once you've started your journey, then it's up to you to choose. Do you want to give 10 minutes every day, an hour every day? You may want to give longer, but that's going to be your choice and how that works for you in your life. And so it's a very simple thing. And how we've kept up with the changing times is actually because we've been a step ahead of the world. I'll give you 3 examples. In 1982, when we affiliated with the UN, people were thinking, a spiritual organization, what's that got to do with the UN? But they didn't see that the underlying thing was peace. And so this is why we were I think we were at that point, the only spiritual organization from the East who very quickly joined and went through the different steps, and we became an organization with general consultative status. And at that time, we were the only spiritual organization from the East to do that. After that, I think others have come on board. So we were a bit ahead of our time. When it was time for projects and things like this, we had a project at the end of the 80s, which was called Global Cooperation for a Better World. And we were asking, it became the largest research program organized by an NGO in the world. And we reached 128 countries, which at that time in 1991, the map was different. We were the only organization that was able to reach out to all the countries which had a population of over 1 million. So what came out from that research that we did, and it lasted for a couple of years, then putting everything together and making sense of everything took us another year. And what came out of all of that was that the thing that people want most for a better world, we had 3 questions. How do you see your better world? How do you see relationships in that better world? How do you see yourself in that better world? And the answer was actually not a big surprise to us. It was a surprise to people out there. But the answer came out, values. They felt the value of honesty, of responsibility, of truth, of love, of happiness, peace. These were the things they wanted to see in relationships and their better world. And so how are you going to get there? Well, let me learn to be happy. Let me learn to be peaceful. Then I can get there. And so when it was the 50th anniversary of the UN, we had a little book that was called Living Values. And it had that double meaning. Values that are alive, but also living your life based on values. And so people weren't talking about visioning. People weren't talking about values. The whole thing with the corporates about mission, vision, values, purpose, all that came later. So we were quite ahead. And what's happened after that is that we decided to have the same lesson that we study in India, in London, in 120 countries across the globe where we have centers. We made it uniform so that everyone, everywhere was studying the same lesson through technology. So we began to use technology way back in the 80s And so I don't know how many other spiritual organizations or religious organizations, I think everybody's on that wagon now. But I think we were a little ahead of our time when we started to use technology, and in particular, to use it as a medium to share these ideas.
Definitely. I mean, you've also advanced towards like the apps as well. Different, different website. You've got your own website. There are different apps as well. Different meditations people can do. Now, with these meditations, are there different levels of meditation, or could you pick and choose one?
Meditation is very simple. I'm a soul. I connect with the divine. That's it. But then, of course, there's many, many different ways to get to it. And since we were talking about technology, I've just got a list of all the different apps that put out this message of meditation in different ways. And people can connect up and get all the technical information from that. We've got something called B-Zone, Beezone. Then there's something that's called Happy Dote. Happpidote. And then if you type in just JUST -a-minute and go to that website, it's got meditations for 1 minute. You can meditate for a minute, never mind an hour. Meditations for 5 minutes and further beyond. And then there's also an app called Insight Time. And then there's also an app called Meditation Lounge. And so there's all these technical things that young people love to play around with. So play around with these apps and see where it takes you.
Definitely. I mean, it's very interesting to know that there are meditations for 1 minute. So literally, if you've just got the 1 minute, to be honest, I don't think anybody would have an excuse anymore. Because the excuse is normally, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time. Normally when somebody comes to me saying, oh, Arti, you don't have time, and I was like, if you've got time to worry, you've got time to meditate.
I remember that answer. It's a very good answer.
If you're worrying, you've got time to meditate because you're still thinking. And I'm like, no, but if there's a meditation for say 1 minute, I think that would be brilliant, and then this way nobody's got any excuse. Now, are the Brahma Kumaris currently holding classes within their centres as well, or are we waiting for government guidelines for that?
Before we open up to the public, we've got regular students coming who are dedicated to coming every day. We've got activities for them every morning because that's their lifeline.
Yeah.
But we're not yet open to the public. But if you check out any of these apps, and also just Brahma Kumaris, or for London Global Cooperation House, or for Leicester Harmony House, for example, you'll be able to see the things that we offer online. For example, every Friday evening, there's a lecture that's in English, and it takes up current affairs, all the different situations that we are facing, and what would be the spiritual approach, the spiritual answer to those situations. Thursday evenings, Global Cooperation House in London has a public-facing event. And so these will give you a bit of an idea, a flavor of what's going on. Wednesday evenings, Global Cooperation House has a Hindi program. So different things are happening.
Sister Jayanti, a very good friend of mine, Bindu Motiji, approached me and said, Artiji, I've been inspired to do this show with Love to India. And she was explaining to me that, this is the idea of the show, and it's basically sending love and prayers to India. And she told, and I asked her, I said, how were you inspired by this, or what made you kind of want to do something like this, especially at a time when there's so much chaos and it's so difficult to organize, any type of a show or put things together. So then she sent me your video, a beautiful video message that you had created, you had helped make. and it's absolutely amazing. We'll be showing it on the channel as well. But your one video message has inspired, you know, a whole show. There's a whole team literally working, you know, trying to make things kind of move forward in a positive way. So, you know, you have inspired so many different people and touched so many lives in a very, very strong way. I just want to say thank you for that. And also what I would like to ask you is that, is there a message that you would like to give the viewers?
Just know that after darkness, there is always light. And so the period that the world is going through is a very dark one. But beyond that, there is hope, there is light, there is a better world ahead. So just hold on to that awareness, both for yourself and for the world. And know that the one above is definitely moving things in that direction, though we can't see it at the moment, but the energy is moving things towards a better world.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, you know, I really appreciate that message, and I hope that it does touch the hearts of the youth, touch the hearts of all of our audience that are watching. I want to say a big thank you so much for your time as well, because it's, you know, people like yourselves who dedicate so much time and energy and effort to try to help others in such a positive way. And this gift of love is something which is, I would say, invaluable. Now, the Brahma Kumaris are, you know, they're an NGO, and a lot of the courses, the meditations you do are all for free. So if somebody wanted to make a donation or wanted to contribute from their side in, you know, in any big or small way that they could, how can they get in touch?
They can contact us via our website, brahmakumaris.org, and I think they'll get all the information they need there. Or the London is the Global Cooperation House, and they can find out a lot of information there also. But it's been a real pleasure to connect with you, Sister Aarti, and I hope we meet together personally at some point. And I'll just give you the proper name for the website. It's brahmakumaris.uk.org. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, I'm told it's just brahmakumaris.uk. That's the website.
That's okay. I'm sure I'm sure all of our viewers are already trying on they've probably got their phone in the palm of their hand and they're just probably typing it in already. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and thank you for your love and your blessings as well. Very blessed to meet you. Om Shanti.
It's been a pleasure. Om Shanti, and good luck with your new channel. All good wishes.
Thank you.
कब जब बीमारी आती है तो हम समझते हैं हम बिल्कुल अकेले हैं, परंतु आप अकेले नहीं हैं। ऊपर वाला अवश्य ही आपके साथ है और हमारे दिल की भावनाओं में भी हम आपको रखा है ताकि वो भी मदद आपको, जो हम सरी के परिवार वाले हैं, एक ही विश्व परिवार है। तो हम वो भी शुभ भावनाएं आपके प्रति रखते हैं ताकि वो भी आपको कुछ मदद दे सके। और हम जानते हैं कि कोई भी जो भी ड्रामा की सीन आती है सदा के लिए नहीं रह सकती, अवश्य ही बदलेंगी अवश्य ही ये भी अंधियारा मिट जाएगा और सोचरा अथवा प्रकाश की दुनिया आएंगी। आज के समय सारे विश्व की नज़र भारत के ऊपर है, क्योंकि सारे विश्व भर में यही समाचार है कि भारत की इस समय जो महामारी चल रही है वो इतनी ज़बरदस्त है, जो मैं समझती कोई मुश्किल से परिवार बचा होगा जिसका कोई न कोई सदस्य पर इस बात का प्रभाव न पड़ा हो।
From my heart, I am sending God's love and light to India.
We know that India is going through a hard time right now. We must remember that God's with us and we won't be afraid.
India is an amazing place, the spiritual motherland for the whole world. India will prevail through these difficult times, and I'm sending all my love and best wishes to all of you, my brothers and sisters there.
इस समय पर भगवान हमारे साथ है और हमारी स्नेह भरी शुभकामनाएं भी आपके साथ है।
Why do people love Bharat so much? It's because of your natural beauty, your generosity, your resilience, your creativity, and most of all, your deep spirituality. And it's these things that are going to help you through.
अभी के टाइम्स के अनुसार हम सबको एक निश्चय चाहिए, एक बल और एक भरोसा चाहिए।
And I really feel that we can all really share something very, very powerful by creating thoughts of peace and love and allowing people to really begin to find the strength within to deal with such a tragic and desperate situation.
एक कदम हिम्मत हमारा, 1000 कदम मदद परमात्मा खुदा का। तो ऐसे समय पर हम हिम्मत ना हारिए।
During these times of suffering, it's important to connect with what's true of India: peace, power, and love.
By staying connected to the light within, you will find the strength to come through this.
कहा जाता है अंधियारे के बाद उजियारा होने का ही है। ये समय भी पास हो जाएगा।
We need to unite and we need to send positive, loving and peaceful vibrations to everybody.
कृपया इन कठिन समय के दौरान विश्वास और साहस बनाए रखें।
By staying connected to the light in each one of us, you will find the courage to come through this.
दो बात भारतवासियों में नेचुरल है। एक है दिल से सेवा और मदद की भावना, और दूसरा है जरूरत के समय पर कम्युनिटी में एक दो को साथ देते हैं।
By staying connected to the divine light, you will find the hope that there are better times to come.
आज की बातें देख करके हम सोचते हैं पता नहीं क्या होगा, परंतु ये हमें विश्वास है कि आगे का कुछ उम्मीदों का संसार फिर से लौट के आएगा। जो बीमारी को बीत रहे हैं उन्हों को भी हम यही कहेंगे कि हम आपके साथ हैं, हमारी दिल की भावनाएं आपको पहुंच रही होंगी और ऊपर वाले के द्वारा वो शांति की शक्ति भी आपको मिल रही है इस समय।
We know that the rays of love and peace and compassion of the one above are shining over you. This time too will pass.
तो अपने मन को, आप दिल को उस परमात्मा की प्रेम में, लगन में ऐसे आप मजबूत रखें ताकि उस आत्मा जहाँ पर भी हो, चाहे इस जहान में हो, चाहे उन्होंने शरीर छोड़ा हो, परंतु वो हमारी प्रेम की भावना और परमात्मा की प्रकाश अवश्य है उन आत्माओं तक भी पहुंचेंगी जरूर।